Hi, I'm Alan Ross. I'm the managing editor of APC Media, or APC Technology Productions, Transformer Technology, Power Systems Technology. We are here at the RE Plus 2023 event in Las Vegas. This thing is huge. It seems like the battery storage people have come here. So we've got wind, solar, battery storage, and everything in between. But hope you enjoy these interviews. I love interviewing the technology of the future, and enjoy. Okay, my next guest is Eric Kauffman. Eric,
Hi.
You are the head of business director of business development for TMEIC.
I am.
We're going to talk about that in a little bit, but tell me a little bit about your background in the power industry. I know you've been in renewables about 4 years, power industry 20 years. I really want some thought leadership. What's going on in the power industry? What are the challenges, problems, good things that are happening? Just give me some perspective.
I mean, we saw with, this is another revolution that's occurring. Revolutions are not necessarily benign.
They can be nasty.
They can be. So what you see is as solar, wind, renewables, storage, buoyed by federal incentives, favorable tax credits, manufacturing credits, production credits, and now you add hydrogen into the mix. What you're seeing is the game is set for a rapid transformation. And you'd mentioned earlier in my career, there was a transformation from centralized coal power to combined cycle plants. Right? And basically the coal power plants went into, we're going to run until the next really expensive thing breaks, and then we're just going to scrap and walk away. Or we're going to repower that into the new technology of gas turbine combined cycle. So now the gas turbine combined cycle are running very selectively. The latest technologies are replacing the older technologies, but now they're running very selectively for grid resiliency and things like that. Meanwhile, renewables is on the place. But some of these things that we saw occur are occurring in all the areas. We're seeing, as time moves to the right, you've got digital technologies. I used to walk around PGI, and you'd see no software companies, no digital companies, no data. And then after a while, you'd see a couple of them spring up. And here, we're mostly seeing this year, it's a much larger conference. You're seeing a lot of battery manufacturers, a lot of solar cell manufacturers, a lot of infrastructure people. You're seeing very few software optimization companies. That's going to increase as we move to the right. The traditional power industry saw NERC SIP come around. Cybersecurity. Hey, anything over so many megawatts of power is subject to NERC SIP compliance. And as we look around this industry, are these now becoming critical assets where cybersecurity is going to play a bigger role? And who are the players, and at what level is it required? Is it, it's just the plant is of a certain size, regardless of the size of the assets? Or are the OEMs also responsible? So you're seeing some trends like there. And then as hydrogen enters the mix, here's a traditional fossil-based fuel, if you will, or fossil-based fuel derivative, byproduct of petroleum refining and all of that. And now it's saying, I'm here to play. If we can find enough off-takers, there's going to be lots of hydrogen production, with the most credits favoring green hydrogen production. And they say, okay, if we're going to be green hydrogen production, we're going to need 10 more, gigawatts of power every year to run all this stuff. And you say, okay, well, is that going on the grid or not going on the grid? Right? And there's a lot of debate and a lot of expectation that maybe a lot of this doesn't go on the grid. So do we go from the centralized grid to now a bunch of islands? And are they going to be connected to the main grid? And do they have a role to play?
it's we have chaos again, is what you're saying. There does seem, and I don't think it's tax credits anymore, but I think we're kind of at a point, an inflection point, if you will, or a tipping point, where they figured it out, that wind alone and solar alone can't do it. You must have storage. If you don't have utility scale storage, you're just not going to be able to do it. And you're seeing that here. I mean, upstairs there's a lot more utility grade storage than there was, and you're seeing, the down to the consumer. We're going to try to do, there was a company that we talked to that does the soup to nuts, so the consumer can get off the grid, and 10 of them in a neighborhood can get off the grid, and you're going, that doesn't work. There is no one answer all. You can't. You're going to depend on the grid. They're going to depend on you. And when you get the charging right, and battery, cars can take and give power and do all that, everything's going to be changing once again. So it's at the utility level and at the homeowner level, it's all changing. Microgrids, they're all now coming into being. Talk a little bit about TMEIC. What is it that you all bring to the marketplace that's different?
So TMEIC is celebrating its 20th anniversary this year, but I like to say we're a 20-year-old company with 100 years of history, because our roots trace back through Toshiba and Mitsubishi and even GE. But we're very excited. We think 20 years in this industry is a good amount of time. What we bring, we had a lot of good client meetings. We refer to clients versus customers because of the relationship. We like to form the long-term relationship. And we talked about, you're going to have these assets for 20 years. So as we approach this stuff, and we have industrial roots, so we tend to think about, well, who's going to own this? Who's going to operate it every day? And what's their total cost of ownership for this product? So in the renewables and storage space, the discussion's about, well, it's the power at the point of interconnect. And do you have that power the entire time through? And are we bringing the ability to support that? And we're bringing a service capability and a commitment to the customer's success and on-time project delivery. And not to mention a pretty good product suite, really good track record of customer support, client support, from the inception of the project, the interconnect agreement, through the commissioning and COD service and rest of life. We support our products through all the life cycles. We just got into, we've been in it for a while, but we're really recognizing repower as something that's going on in the industry.
Repower,
like every industry, be it radios and televisions and internet service providers and anything, an industry grows and everybody gets into it. Right? When they first had the flat panel TVs and you go to the store, there's 50 brands to choose from. Right? Well, in the solar world, there were 50 brands to choose from, maybe more. There are not that many left. A lot of them have left the industry. But they have these assets, aging inverters, difficult to get renewal parts, reaching the part of the bathtub curve that tends to cause some inconvenience. Meanwhile, a lot of these asset owners might have power purchase agreements, or they say, well, I may not be able to get the permits to build another one of these things. I've got to keep this facility running. So repower is taking this obsolete inverter and replacing it with a brand new, modern, long runway inverter of today. So that's an area where we're finding opportunity to support. It seems to be growing. I think TMEIC is also an industrial company. I mentioned that. We have our industrial roots. So in the case of hydrogen, it's really exciting for us. I don't see a lot of hydrogen here, but at the previous couple conferences I've been at, where renewables were the subject matter, clean power and all that, hydrogen is starting to play a role. And what's interesting about hydrogen for a company like TMEIC is it really hits all of our businesses. industrial gas suppliers, right? Large oil and gas, large industrial pipelines, they're all coming to play. You're moving these fluids great distances, pressures and temperatures and flows, while coupling it with renewables, while coupling it with storage, recognizing intermittency and how to address that, with green hydrogen favoring renewables through electrolysis. And it really brings together all the areas that TMEIC has been involved in for the 100 years.
Yeah, right. Okay. So at what point do you get to microgrids for industrial? When the industrial customers say, I can't rely on the utility anymore, they got to keep Mrs. Jones going, but there's a whole bunch of resiliency issues, there's weather issues.
Absolutely.
Today, it is probably actually feasible to have some wind and solar microgrids that are supporting, and then future hydrogen
Absolutely.
support. Are
Absolutely.
you all looking at microgrids at all?
We are looking at microgrids. Our approach to this has been through our industrial clients.
Right.
So they're looking, you go industry by industry, water, wastewater, cement, oil and gas pipelines. These things can be located far at a distant end of the grid,
Right.
where grid robustness is not so great. They may be having very spiky power, where you say storage, we can level that out, reduce their peak demand charges, do a little time shifting and all the good things that energy storage brings. Rooftop solar, of course, comes into play here. And but then they do want the resiliency. And so they generally have had this N+1, N+2 backup power concept, where we're saying, well, maybe you don't need to do that. That fossil-based equipment that you're using as your backup power, you may be able to use inverter and storage-based as your backup power, which may not require the same level of annual maintenance, certainly cleaner, certainly reduces your Scope 1, your Scope 2 carbon footprint. Oh, by the way, it's not just going to sit there and collect dust and wait for maintenance costs. You can use it on a daily basis to, not only is it providing your ultimate backup, but it's also doing some good things for your electric bill, while also perhaps giving you some opportunity as a revenue opportunity by providing some resiliency to the grid, right? So some ancillary services, if you will.
Right. If we're not at the next chaos point is coming down the road, right? That's something that we haven't figured out yet. I think hydrogen is going to have a play in that, by the way. I think that's going to be one where people go, we don't really understand it. We actually had, we did a whole hydrogen conference. We did this at the World Hydrogen Conference, right?
Yeah, we were there.
Okay. Well, if you remember, we had these lights and he was filming and we were doing a lot of thought leaders for hydrogen. And just as a test, we had coming into our company, we had a high school group, right? High schoolers. And they toured the company and we, took them around, and then we had lunch with them. And we brought the CEO down and everybody was, having a nice time. And the CEO said, when you all think of hydrogen, what do you think of? And one kid in the back said, the Hindenburg.
Of course.
I thought, how do you know the Hindenburg, you little twit?
Yeah, that's right.
But it is on the consciousness of, it's hydrogen and it's safe. I think the natural gas industry has done a great job. Natural gas.
Right.
It makes it sound so nice and normal. It kills people. Anyway, that's kind of where we're going to cut that last diatribe.
I think there's certainly an opportunity for the marketing department to step up and say, okay, how do we frame this in the consciousness of the American psyche, that hydrogen is doing your part, right? The engineers have made it safe, right? I've had combustible gas in my house for decades. Right?
Well, I think it's they've already started doing it, but the idea when you call it green hydrogen, everybody goes, "Oh, it's green," and you're going, "Yeah, right, okay." If that really floats your boat, that's good. Anyway, thank you so much. Appreciate it, Eric. Good interview.